live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. On this Wednesday evening, come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Central Time, our brand new time as of last week. Good to have you along for the ride. Me, Steve Pulaski, joined as always by the inimitable duo of Dominic Guanzon in the trademark blue polo. Joe Viso lives on the theater screen. This is Sleepless with Steve. First and foremost, how are you gentlemen on this scorching, insufferably sweltering Wednesday evening?
Sweats out with Steve. No, but like Sleepless with Steve, when we keep pushing the time earlier and earlier during the day.
Eventually you're going to see us at work doing this show.
Seriously. Hold on, I got to go live on air. Hold on.
At least you have a broadcast job. It makes sense to be on a mic.
How are you guys, though? I see Joe's got the fan. I was almost going to break out my desk fan today. It is hot. I think it's like 93 with a heat index of like 103 last I checked or something. It's hot today.
It is scorching out. It's not even scorching. It's just so humid. Like, the sun's not even out. Like, if I were to go out there, I'd be fine. But it's just so humid that it's like, I got to keep this fan on in order to stay alive for the rest of this show.
It's not the heat. It's the humidity that'll kill you.
There you go.
Every Midwestern ever.
Every Midwestern. Well, the problem is we hardly know life without like 70% humidity. Like, I woke up early this morning, like I've been doing, and like at like 5 a.m, it was 98% humidity. Like, it was one of those where I'm like, oh, well, got to pause the air conditioner in my car and turn on the defrost because I get a strong case. I can't see shit at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
You know, but we will move forward. We got 3 very fascinating things to talk about. And I hit Joe with this breaking news that we're going to open up the show with. He was in the middle of getting ready to see Old.
Literally, the credits like started opening and everything. And I'm like, oh, Steve's texting group chat. I'm going to get one last text in before the movie starts. And I read it and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
We'll lead with that in a moment. But I'm also going to finally review Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to end the show, the book, the novelization, if you will, the drugstore spinner rack mass market paperback, which I just realized very fun to say. I finished this last week. Fastest 400 pages I have ever read. I read this in less than a month. So this fast 400 pages, I'll say that. And so I'll dive into that. And also, apropos of nothing, I got 80 pages deep in this book. Joe will know this one. American Animals, based on the source text of the movie, which is a pretty good read, written by one of the criminals, Eric Borsick, who's also a Facebook friend of mine now, too. Shout out Eric Borsick. Moving forward, however, we'll also review Old, the M. Night movie, which is now out in theaters, so we're all going to discuss that momentarily. But first, breaking news, one of the greatest television shows is going to end. And I'm not being hyperbolic there. I'm not being sarcastic. The sun appears to be setting on the second longest running animated program and one of the best TV shows in history, and that's Arthur. Yes, the PBS show. Started in 96, started the year I was born. And after 25 years and 249 episodes, technically 485 half episodes, if you want to get technical, PBS is pulling the plug on Arthur. It will air its final season next winter. Winter of 2022 will be the final season of Arthur. I suspect that PBS is probably going to do a pretty big send-off, or at least make it a big point in the programming to draw attention that this is the last hurrah with Arthur, because Arthur still has a legion of fans that are far younger than us. So I suspect PBS is going to make it an event. And they'd be right to do so, especially Mark Brown. He's only 74 years old, the author of the books, one of the producers on the show. He's still alive. He can partake in things. So I really hope they kind of send it off gracefully. But let me, if I can, may I monologue here for a few minutes. Anybody who knows me, like on a personal note, they know I love Arthur, and I hold this program in a huge regard. And it almost becomes a running joke with people. I've gotten 5 or 6 texts from friends. some people I haven't even talked to in a couple years that texted me, not only last night, but this morning too, about this news. It might be the smartest kid show in history, and one of the rare one, and I cannot stress this enough, that got better as it went on. The show tackled allergies. It tackled dyslexia. It tackled cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, same-sex marriage, with deft understanding of really how to approach the material empathetically and authentically. And that's got to be the beautiful part about this show, because it tackled heavy stuff when we were watching it as kids, the first few seasons.
Yeah.
But the later it went on, Mrs. McGrady, the lunch lady, has breast cancer. Arthur's grandfather developed Alzheimer's. So you saw this, and for anybody who wants to always argue that these things should be left out of a kid's show, I remember I had this debate a few years ago with somebody. I remember telling them, I said, you want to bet the kid watching that program probably has a relative with cancer, or maybe wonders why grandpa doesn't remember them when they come over? I said, I can't think of a more appropriate avenue. And they tackled it in a beautiful, sensitive light. And Arthur recognized early on that people are different and they look different. It avoided that tokenism that could come with kid shows that has made, kid shows of the past a little bit hairy because of so-called tokenism. And it devoted full episodes to side characters so we could see their world. And it was kind of like, in a way, they're all animals. And if you watch the early episodes, they make it like a big point to emphasize that Buster's a bunny and Arthur's an aardvark and Sue Ellen's a cat or whatever, But they kind of ditched that the very early on into the series. They just kind of operated it like everybody looks different. Everybody looks different. Everybody acts different. Everybody's got different personalities, and that's okay. It also didn't shy away from scariness. Now, I know you two remember this episode. Remember the episode where Arthur punches DW?
Yeah.
The one where he punches DW?
I mean, it became an iconic.
Actually,
it became the iconic meme that we've seen.
That became the
years.
iconic fist meme.
Oh, that's right.
That became the iconic fist meme. Now, do you remember why Arthur punched DW?
No, I do not.
Because she did something to like a book of his or something, or his project. It was something like that. I forgot.
Very close. She touched and broke his model airplane.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's what it was. And then there was the other episode, which not a lot of, I don't know if people don't talk about as much as the punch one, but it's the one where they're going to the dump for something, and Arthur slices his knee open on a lima beans can, and he doesn't tell his parents, and it gets infected.
Yeah.
And that's a real episode too. How many times were you hurt as a kid and you didn't want to tell your parents? You didn't want to confront your parents because you were doing something stupid, but then it got worse. And it didn't shy away from that scary stuff, though.
Real quick, people still do that as adults, where they refuse to go to the doctor because they're afraid to spill that they've been doing stupid stuff. But I digress.
And I'll say this too. There's another episode that came later. This one kind of came after the window of when you should watch Arthur, unless you're me. There's another episode where Arthur sells toys online. And he's nefarious about it after getting advice from who else but the worst character in the show, Muffy, but I digress. He winds up selling these toys, but he fabricates the details on them. Like, the one's broken, and he says for display purposes, and he winds up conning these kids out of money. And, so Arthur wasn't this, golden child proving that proving the fact that none of us are. Any of us could be led astray down the wrong path in that way. But there was always a strong wraparound moral, and there was always an emphasis on consequences, too, in this show. And it wasn't the typical Pat Full House level consequences. Sometimes they got grounded. Sometimes they got in big trouble. Yeah. Sometimes they failed tests. Consequences were a big part of this show. In addition, it also had a couple fantastical qualities to it. You had Nadine, who was DW's imaginary friend, who was part of a lot of episodes. Pal, the dog, and baby Kate had that relationship too, where they would talk. So it wasn't just a strictly slice of life show. There was some fantastical elements embedded in Arthur as well. But this show knew kids and taught lessons in a delightfully unpatronizing way. I would compare it in a lot of ways to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in the way that it knew how to speak to kids. It knew how to speak to kids without the theatricality. And before I get off this monologue, can I just say, too, the music of this show remains outstanding. Out frigging standing. I actually listened to, again, a couple years ago, I want to say 3 years ago, the CD Arthur's Almost Live, Not Real musical, which was a big special episode early on in the series run. I'll be damned if not every song, almost every song on that album slaps. That is a great album. Who remembers Jekyll and Hyde by The Brain? If not, I encourage you to look that song up because that remains one of the best numbers in Arthur. The Jekyll and Hyde by The Brain. Exceptional music video, too, I must add. And then you had the extraordinary Christmas special that, I don't know if you guys remember it, but that was the one that went through every holiday. Christmas, Francine celebrated Hanukkah, Buster celebrated Baxter Day because he felt left out of the other holidays. Yep. The Brain celebrated Kwanzaa. And it was a very humanistic episode on top of having a great soundtrack. And then who could forget that banger of a Ziggy Marley theme song? And it goes to show, I'll end with this, it goes to show with Arthur, and I think it proved it over 25 years, even the newer episodes, which I strongly encourage anybody to watch. Everybody that you meet has a different point of view. So cheers to Arthur, 25 years. All good things come to an end. I'm glad it didn't go the way of The Simpsons or even SpongeBob and become increasingly silly and absurd to try to appeal to what they think the new generation of kids wants.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that it had not only a fruitful run, but an appreciated run because it's still enormously popular with kids today. So double salute to Arthur. I'll throw it over to Joe right now to continue this.
I'm glad you brought up Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood because for me, like the way you feel about Arthur is how I felt about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. However, though, Arthur did play a big part of my childhood as well because, you know, it was all those shows were on PBS. That's the only place you could watch them. So Arthur was always one that like I did love watching. It was like one of my favorite PBS shows. There's two episodes that you didn't mention that like to me like I think handled it amazingly. There was the 9/11 response episode.
Yes.
Arthur.
Yes. April 9th.
Yep. April 9th, when the building caught the school, it's the school that catches on fire, right? If I remember correctly. Yep. Mm-hmm. That episode to me, I think like that perfectly came at the right time to help kids understand what the hell happened in the country and like, you know, just the whole feeling of it. That it's okay, like, you know, if you were scared and everything. I thought I handled it beautifully. But the one to me that like cemented this show as like, oh, this is truly one of the best children's programs is the Asperger's episode when George met Carl. And to me, like, this episode blew my mind that they, like, perfectly captured how to approach teaching kids, like, a disease like, I shouldn't say, like, you know, a condition like Asperger's. Right. And, like, the way, like, you know, when George goes to the brain, and the brain basically, like, puts him into this imaginary world to explain everything. It's just, like, it's so genius. Like, it reminded me a lot of, like I bet the guys who wrote Inside Out looked at that episode and went,
I was just going to say, that draws a lot of parallels. You think, like, Pete Docter was a consultant on that one.
He was just like, damn, they beat us to it. We got to hurry up and get this movie out.
And don't forget, George himself is dyslexic, too.
Yeah, there's that, too. It's like the show covered so many range of topics that Steve mentioned that it's sad to see it actually come to an end. I hope PBS doesn't stop airing it. I mean, it's only just, you know, it's just gonna have its final run, and it's like I haven't like really kept up with Arthur other than like the big episodes, like, you know, the same-sex marriage episode that happened recently and stuff. Like I actually watched those episodes and everything, but like for this final season, I might like DVR the whole damn thing and actually check out each episode to see how they wrap this up, man.
Yeah,
it's
because I want to see how they're gonna end it.
Yeah. Honestly, I do too.
Because now that they know, and the fact that it's not coming out till winter 2022 suggests that they're not completed yet.
Yeah.
So now that they know, I wonder how it's going to all circumvent. And that's not an easy challenge. 25 years. I would not want to write that episode.
Dom, go ahead, man.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't have the closest relationship to Arthur, but I do remember it growing up. being like one of the most solid shows to watch as a kid. Like, yeah, Mr. Rogers, a bunch of others I'm forgetting, but like Arthur was absolutely one of them. Get this Caillou shit out of here. No, we got Arthur, man. We got MF and Arthur, and it's how it's honestly kind of like this generation's Archie and / Riverdale, not like the not that Riverdale. You know what I'm talking about, the OG Archie, where
I
it's
know
like
what you mean. It's just the CW show popped up in my head when you said that. I imagined
Veronica,
the CW's
Betty.
Arthur.
unfortunately. Apparently, I didn't even know that was like a Glee like show where they have musical numbers. Doesn't matter. Completely off topic. But like what I meant is that it's kind of like Archie in the sense that it is the everyman. It is this is America for kids kind of way, and like everything that is reflected in Arthur is kind of a reflection of the baseline of the country to a certain degree. And it's just interesting how it does warp and evolve. Same thing with things like Sesame Street. That was another one. Sesame Street. And just how that changes, and all these long running shows that for the longest time, you have these basic issues, like basic topics like sharing, or like maybe something a little spicier, like parents divorcing. But then when you get into stuff like mental health, terrorist attacks, gay marriage, I don't know if Arthur has tackled trans issues at all too, which would be like, damn, but if there's any show that can handle that, I would trust Arthur to do it among a small handful of others. And it's sad to see it go. And apparently the creator was like, yeah, no, we could totally keep going. I don't think I disagree with PBS on their decision to do this. So I don't know what the hell the choice was. PBS has not issued any statement on this crisis of childhood nostalgia. But
and that's kind of shocking that PBS hasn't come out and said something.
I have no idea what it could possibly be. It's like, is this a money thing? Because you're PBS. I don't know why you think about money at all.
And then just the fact that they haven't said that like this was a difficult decision or we have to move forward. Arthur's gifted television, 25 years of exceptional content.
Yeah.
That's the story underneath the story is why hasn't PBS said anything?
That's in the back of my mind. And apparently there have been hints, like back in 2013, the voice of Binky, 2018 sent out a thing like, hey, yeah, 24 years, I was the dad in Binky, and now I'm not the voice of that anymore. And it's like, is the show ending? And then I guess the pandemic hit later on. And then like, yeah, we just haven't been in production for the past 2 years. And 2022 is going to be our last show. So it's a really weird timeline. Is there behind the scenes of all the things to have drama? It's weird to have Arthur have drama, and I certainly hope that isn't the case. I hope it's something really peaceful and amicable, but it's really weird, and it makes you think. So we'll when it comes across our the Sleepless with Steve news desk, we will discuss.
Yeah, we'll be waiting on the Arthur drama like we're waiting on the man who should not be named at Nickelodeon shoe to fall. Yeah. But the other thing is I'll end with this. Two quick points. The one thing that'll always piss me off eternally though is Arthur never got a real movie. Arthur never got a real movie outside of that terribly animated Arthur's Missing Pal. If you remember that atrocity. If you don't, look it up. It was the only thing close to a movie that they ever gave it. And it was this ugly, warped CGI disaster. Total disaster.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me look.
Yeah, y'all never seen this one. There's a reason this one got lost to the annals of history.
Images.
Oh my God. This is just gross.
I remember as a kid, I was so outraged, I didn't even watch the premiere of it. I was so outraged. I was 10. This came out in 2006.
Dude, it's live. Is it live action starring Doug Moore and Liza Minnelli? No, I'm kidding.
It's just it's terribly animated. That's what it is.
That movie's a good Arthur movie, but that's not Arthur. But
DW looks horrifying. If you get stuck within the moon
in New York City.
Even Pal looks weird. You know what it looks like? It looks like a terrible N64 video game. That's what it looks like.
Oh God!
As a kid,
what?
I wouldn't want.
Yeah, this is like a Wii. No. It looks like a Wii cash-in, completely forgotten bargain bin.
Oh my God, this is what you would find at Walmart for like $3 on like a Christmas Wii game.
Look up the iCarly Wii video game. Now that's what it should be, or like that's what I thought this looks like.
No, this is no, dear. We have Arthur at home. That's what the Arthur's Missing Pal is. But it never got its own movie, and that'll always stick in my craw, how it never got its own movie. And I don't know if PBS has some sort of aversion to movies, but like, I mean, you think about it, Dragon Tales never got a movie. Sesame Street got a couple, I think. They got Follow That Bird. They got a couple. But like, Arthur and Tales, I think a Wild Kratts movie. Oh, I'm going to be pissed. No offense to the Krat brothers. I just read a really good piece. Remember the Zaboomafoo guys? They're getting a movie for Wild Kratts. The fact that they're getting a movie and Arthur isn't, that's an injustice. But rest assured, I've been resisting making this joke, but I think I will. It's not like Arthur's going to be going away forever. Don't worry, guys. In 5 years, we're going to have the gritty Elwood City reboot. So, Zack Snyder's Elwood City.
Oh, don't say that.
You know, yeah. Alex Wolff will star as like a disenfranchised pot-smoking Arthur. Okay, we're moving forward on that. Got off my Arthur high horse over here.
That was impassioned, my friend. Impassioned.
Now we segue to a man who is not at all divisive. Now we segue to a man who is not at all love him or hate him as a director. He's M. Night Shyamalan and his new movie, Old, which I would even consider this to be pretty fairly anticipated. I would say highly anticipated. I remember when the trailer premiered during the Bucs-Chiefs Super Bowl earlier this year, and I didn't know it was happening, and I'm just like, oh, wow, M. Night's got a new movie. His first new movie since Glass, and probably his tightest story, I would say, since The Village. Because if you don't know, the story concerns a group of about 3 families on vacation who wind up getting taken to this little beach enclave to like avoid the tourists. And it's a group of 3 separate families, and they all go there, and then they slowly realize that they're aging rapidly. The kids disappear for a couple hours and then come back, and they've like already went through puberty. These like 6 and 10, however old they were, kids. And everybody starts aging rapidly. The kids start aging into adults, and then even scarier, I would argue, the adults start aging into grandparents. And then they start to get older, and they start to have vision problems, dementia, and so on and so forth. And like any great M. Night movie, there's a twist. We won't ruin it on the show. But can I just say, I'll start by this, and then I'll throw it over to you, Joe. The thing about Old is that, and M. Night movies in general, is that now, I don't know how many you two have seen. I want to say, I think I've seen all of them, with the exception of like his Rosie O'Donnell movie, Wide Awake, which he did when he was a youth. I didn't watch that one, but I've seen most of M. Night's movies. But the thing about M. Night's movies is that you anticipate the twist. It's become a running pop culture joke that he has a grand twist. I remember Robot Chicken parodied it. That's how long M. Night, yes, you remember that. That's how long M. Night has been making twists in his movies. Now, the problem with that is that the whole movie, you're watching it, and you're watching it thinking, what's the catch? Where's the hint? Where's that? And number one, it almost makes you miss what's right in front of you, and just in terms of the movie at hand. And number two, in the case of Old, I'm not going to lie, and we're not going to spoil the twist here. I would have rather not known that. I got wrapped up in this sort of idyllic location, which winds up where time is completely meaningless and just progresses at such an exorbitant speed, that I was like, and the sort of ramifications that come with that, both physically and mentally, and just, overarching, that by the time the twist came around, I was like, I would have rather not known that. Like, I would have rather the movie, it would have just been what it was and not had that twist. I have some other issues with this movie, but that was the one that left me, especially just, I feel like the cold, clinical way it sort of rushed through the twist at the end. That's where it left me. I'm not saying we need to entirely dance around the twist here, but that's my immediate thing when people ask me, how was Old? Joe, I'll throw it over to you.
For me, M. Night Shyamalan movies have been going downhill for like a long time. Ever since I think Signs was the last one I saw that I actually thought was good. And then after that, Village to me was okay, and it just goes down. I wasn't crazy about The Visit. I wasn't crazy about Split. And I hated Glass. I was really disappointed with how Glass it turned out. So his track record for me, his batting like average hasn't been the best. And unfortunately, I got to say, Old is another one of these movies that like I was just like not, I wasn't with this movie for the for probably most of it. Yeah, actually, I don't know why I'm saying it like that because my ratings not gonna reflect the sentence I just said. To me, this movie it has a great opening act with this family who is coming to visit like a resort getaway that they won through a pharmaceutical sweepstakes. And they go to this getaway and they're having like, this like big family vacation, and there's just some underlying things. The husband and wife, who are played by, I should have IMDb open to help me out with this real quick.
Gail Garcia Bernal and Vicky Krieps.
Thank you very much. They are, to me, those two are the best actors in this movie. I don't know about you guys, but to me, Guy and Priska, not only were they played by the two best actors, I think, of the whole film, they were the two characters I actually cared about the most, and their kids as well. I was actually getting really involved with the story throughout this opening act. I was like, all right, maybe M. Night will actually like rebound it for me right here. It wasn't until we got to the beach that actually this is where the film just kind of comes to a grinding halt for me. Because all these people who kind of felt like characters, at least in the opening act, now become caricatures and stereotypes for the rest of the movie. And everything that I felt was being set up at the start is being ditched now. There's literally like dialogue in this movie. This has always been an issue with M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue. But like the way people talk in his movies, especially the later movies, it feels like humans who actually are secretly aliens trying to blend in among us. Like there's literally like a woman has a seizure and this guy's just like, don't worry everybody, I'm a doctor, I can solve this. And the husband of this wife goes up, he's like, hello, my name is Joshua, I'm a nurse, this is my wife, she has seizures from time to time. Like it's just like, is no one like reacting like, oh yeah, no, thank you, thank God you're here, you're like, I'm a nurse, thank you for helping me, like, like it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like I understand, like, if she has seizures from time to time, you're probably used to it, but it's just, like, still, like, you're on vacation. You want to relax. And it's just, like, the movie kind of has this tone throughout the whole thing. Is, like, they literally discover a dead body in, like, the first 30 minutes, and everybody's so nonchalant about it. They're just like, oh, there's a dead body over there. Kids, go play over there. We'll come find you later. Like, it's just, like, every time something, like, horrible is happening, everybody feels so nonchalant, doesn't really feel like a human being actually being in this scenario. Even the whole thing of them turning old, I was like, damn, the only people I'm really feeling anything from is our two main characters, Guy and Priska. Like, everybody else, I'm just kind of like, I'm not really feeling anything from anybody else here. And then I'll say this, and then we can bounce back and forth after Dom has his, like, opening. To me, I actually did like the twist, though. If there's one thing that's just like, the movie started out strong, and to me the movie at least ended strong-ish. Like, it wasn't a mind-blowing twist, but it's like, I wouldn't even call it a twist, actually. Like, I see, we always call it a twist because it's M. Night, but in this movie I would say it's more of a reveal, and I actually liked what it revealed and actually turned out to be. I was like, okay, no, this is actually kind of cool. I actually like this idea. Granted, I don't know, I'm not trying to say much about it, but I don't know if it's the best idea to have this kind of twist reveal thing when we have pharmaceutical companies making vaccines out there. But hey, that's just me. Anyways, overall though, I honestly did not enjoy this movie. I was really let down too because, like Steve mentioned, I saw this during the Super Bowl commercials, and like, even though I said I didn't like Split, I actually thought for the most part it was good, especially James McAvoy's performance, and I was like, okay, maybe this will finally be it. Because like, the whole premise of it is so good, and there's some great body horror here too that they do with the premise of it as well, with you aging really quickly on this beach. Also factors into how much your body heals over time or develops things that are in you, whether it be tumors or like dementia, and it's just like, wow, this is actually some really great body horror. But right now I'll throw it off to Dom, and then we could take our intermission break.
I just want to say congratulations to M. Night Shyamalan for discovering, whichever medical dictionary he found. And he was having I can just imagine him on his computer. I'm assuming he wrote it on a computer, like just writing it, like, oh yeah, tumors they can grow. Yeah,
Boy, this WebMD
yes.
is a great resource.
How fast do scars heal?
There was a girl. I'll talk more about this after the intermission, but I'll just say this: there was a brilliant tweet of the week. I should start having this on the show. There was a tweet of the week where somebody tweeted, it went viral on Twitter. He goes, M. Night Shyamalan's the type of person that goes in the pool and sits there for an hour and then looks at his fingers and goes, holy shit. and then 2 years later we get a movie.
Dude. This movie's a functional mess, bro. Like, the dialogue here is so stiff and wooden and so goddamn like expositional. I'm like, dude, we're 2/3 into this movie, I think, and like you're still explaining shit, and like there's no sense of subtlety whatsoever. Everything is surface level, and this is camp, man. There is a level of camp here,
it's not even the fun type of camp though. Like,
honestly though, I will get into this. Like, it is actually grew into a fun type of camp once I got into that mode. But Joe, I'm really glad you brought up that scene very early on, not a spoiler, where a woman has a seizure, and it's like, damn, you think they'd be, the husband would be reacting more to this. I know that it's probably been part of their lives for so long, but I would think, nah, dude, by like the 10th or 11th time something is happening, like I got numb to it and I started like cracking up like internally. Actually, honestly, there were like teenagers in the movie with me, and at first they were annoying. But like by the time the 20th thing, I was like, oh, they're growing older, or like the shtick is like becoming evident, It's just like, because like I swear, a good 40 minutes or an hour like of this movie is just people running up and down the beach, being surprised and scared. Like, really, don't like, if you really sit back and think about this movie, like if you haven't watched this movie yet, watch this movie and then walk out of that movie thinking, yeah, that was just an hour of people like running up and down the beach, like being surprised to the same thing. And like, I understand what shock is. I understand if I were in that situation, I probably wouldn't.
But they run to the one corner and then they run to the other. Then they hang out in the center. Then they swim and then they come back, and like, because it's not a very big setting.
No, it's literally that for like an hour. I swear to freaking God. And like people were cracking up by the end of this movie. And like there are things to appreciate here, and I think we'll get into that. We'll take our break very soon, but I just cannot state enough how functionally this was a mess. I think from the beginning this was real stiff, because like for whatever reason, my mind in the very opening where it showed the main family like going into the resort, I'm thinking like, oh, is this gonna be like The Impossible starring Nicole Kidman and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and like it's like tsunami that Ewan McGregor. I knew you would remind me. I think Nicole Kidman, right? No,
I believe so.
Naomi Watts? I get those two confused all the time.
Penelope Cruz.
No, not Penelope Cruz.
Is it Naomi Watts? No, maybe it is Naomi Watts. It is Naomi Watts. That's the tsunami movie.
Yeah.
That's the tsunami
It is Naomi Watts.
Peter
My
Parker's
bad. I get Naomi Watts and Nicole Kidman.
I think
confused all the time.
Penelope Cruz. I don't know why she's on my mind.
That's fine. They're all beautiful. But
she's running through my mind. That's a fine idea.
Tom Holland he was the kid in
He was the
Peter
kid in
Parker,
that movie. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, it's a better movie, so go watch that. But, the opening, the exposition to, well, the first of many expositions in Old, I thought was like going to be like an impossible ordeal. It's like, oh, is this like the family survive? Like they have to endure this while coming together, and it actually kind of wound up being that towards the end, but not when you have this massive chunk of just camp and like messy dialogue, constant not like talking instead of showing. They're showing all right, but you're just talking over it, and there's no sense of subtlety. And it's like, I understand you're trying to, okay, yes, this secret island or secret resort where they have like, it has like hidden properties, and it reveals the monster inside of us, or it's like it shows like, yeah, we that's what science fiction is. We know, we get it, M. Night. I'm sorry. And it sucks because this actually had the potential to be really cool. I stand by that the setup, the shtick, is actually a really good idea.
It is.
Absolutely. He's in a Rod Serling state of mind, like Twilight Zone.
This could very much be a really, really good Twilight Zone episode. But like, unfortunately, M. Night Shyamalan recently has had a record, an up and down record.
Yeah,
I'll give him that,
coaster,
an up and down record. Yeah, of like just like kind of whiffing on things, like for like The Happening, which is just camp to the extreme. And it's like, okay, you kind of had something here where the planet is fighting back in a very subtle way, but when you have Mark Wahlberg going, no, and it's like, oh, no.
I'm gonna be honest.
Sorry, I'll stop there. It's just an hour of running up and down.
But you're so right about the premise, because like I feel like he wanted to make a really good drama about, like, in your life, if you let little things and just like all this stuff get in your way in life, life can come by. Life goes by like that. You can really let little things like being racist, your marriage, like, issues with like small issues with marriage, big issues with marriage, like, really take into account what is at hand here. Like, it's like, wow, that's actually like a really great message with this horror theme of being stuck in a place that ages you so quick. There's just no good drama here. They're like, nobody. I didn't care about anybody here, and it's just like the wrap up, the final arc with the main two parents, like that. I at least kind of had an emotional reaction to it. I didn't like cry or anything, but I was just like, oh damn. But that was like the way they wrapped it up. It was really nice. It made me actually go, oh man, like that was a beautiful send off. Honestly, you did good there. But all the other characters, they're just there to get killed and turn old. And get killed in cool ways. I'll give him that. He killed them in cool ways.
Before we take, I was gonna say, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But before we take the intermission, I don't want to cut it too close here, but I will say this. I think one of the main problems is that I think there are too many characters.
Yeah.
I think there's too many on this beach. There's way too many. I think they should have cut it to like 5 or like separate.
They could have.
You could have fit
like
all these characters into a mid-sized sedan. Sorry.
The family of 4 and a couple. I think you could have gotten away with that.
Thank you, because I'm glad we all kind of like touched the same area, because the character to me, we could have just kept out of this, because literally it was just like there was no reason to have him there other than like to have just racial tension, and of course like just some stupid BS. Is mid-size sedan, the black
mid-size
character.
sedan.
Like, he didn't add anything to this movie. In fact, he actually jeopardizes the rules that are set here in the movie, because it's like an hour here is like 3 years of your life. This dude was on the beach overnight, and he still looks like 20 years old. And like, granted, he has a great joke to explain it, but it doesn't mean like, okay, but like still, you were over here overnight. You should still look old.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's almost like M. Night got too clever. He like surfed the hip hop playlist of Spotify and came up with his own rapper name and just had to use the damn thing.
For the other record, I've heard worse.
I've heard worse too. The other point I'll make right before we go to intermission, and I just kind of realized this as we were talking. Well, think about this. Maybe we'll ponder this when we come back from intermission. Would this film have been better had it been in real time? Had it been in basically real time?
But then, so then you have to fit it into 2 hours.
You'd have to fit it into 2 hours, and then you'd maybe have to speed up the aging process a tad.
Even more.
But I wonder if the real time would have added tension. And that's something to contemplate over the intermission. We'll be back in just about a minute or two. Got to take our Zoom-sponsored intermission. Don't go anywhere. We will continue our discussion of Old momentarily on Sleepless with Steve. after the Zoom-sponsored intermission. This is Sleepless with Steve, live and in living color on your Wednesday evening, joined by the inimitable Joe Viso and Dominic Guanzon, as I always am. Talking about the new M. Night movie. Now, I opined, and I just thought of this during our conversation. I don't have really one say or another on this movie should have been real time. But I'm just wondering, had the movie been in real time? Because there's very few movies that try this. I always remember this one movie that nobody's seen. It's got Randy Quaid, of all people, in it, and Jay Baruchel. It's actually called Real Time, and it's set in real time. And I think it's a hard thing to pull off. You almost kind of have to do one continuous shot.
Yeah.
You almost have to do that, or at least like long takes.
There's
I wonder if that would have helped this movie.
There was an Elizabeth Olsen horror film that was shot in one take that's like done in real time.
Silent House.
Yep, that, yeah. Like, not the best movie, but like cool, like the way they did it.
It was interesting.
There's also High Noon, the Western movie, and then I think Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. It's supposed to be continuous. Rope. I don't know if it's real time. If it's continuous, it has to be real time, right?
It isn't. It
Oh,
isn't.
okay.
It's edited because it was shot on film, so they only had 10 minutes. It's spliced to look like real time. I think Silent House is too. I don't know if Silent House was one continuous shot. It was made to look like it.
I believe
and that
it was. I think that was like.
Was it?
I think that was like the big thing about it.
But
that was.
We're talking
pre-Birdman.
time. We're talking time, not shots. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but. Yeah, honestly, that does sound cool. And you know what? If you're gonna have a gimmick, put another gimmick on top of that. Do it. Like, challenge yourself.
Yeah.
But I think M. Night was just more happy, content, just finding cool finding cool ways to kill people. Which honestly, you know what? I could use some fresh ways to die here. So it's this COVID shit. It's getting old. But you know what? Not decapitating. Evaporating before your very eyes is pretty cool. Like, I think the peak corniness, the peak camp was when I don't want to spoil it, but there's a character is like breaking down, the whole party's in shock, and the woman is saying, "Can we talk about what just happened here?" And like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like, God damn, yes we can. Honestly, this movie would be great to watch if you're high, just get your buds and just like have fun with this movie. I think this is squarely in like the happening camp.
I never want to. Can I just say this, because everybody always like, that's a common line people say. Like, this is a great movie to get drunk.
I don't think it's a great movie to get high to at all.
No, it's not even that. I would never want to make a movie where somebody says like, "Oh, we get high and watch your movie all the time." I'm like, good. You need chemical reinforcement because I suck at my job. That's wonderful.
I'm already giving this a certain rating, so I think
my work is insufferable. Go get Blackout and try to enjoy it. Like, I would not, unless I have like the next Rocky Horror. It's not really a compliment.
This was a backhanded compliment. Don't get me wrong.
That's very much.
I was gonna say, like, you know, if he did it in real time, maybe it would have added another layer to this film. But like, I don't think it still would have made it better for me, because like, again, it's just like, I'll say this: I did feel a little unsettled at times when people were turning old, or people were dying, or like things were like when the girl got pregnant, when they had to remove a tumor from somebody's body because the tumor was aging with her rapidly as well. It's just like, these are very unsettling things that made me kind of squirm in my chair, and also just made me like kind of like, oh my god, this is pretty effed up. It's just what takes away from that and everything is the fact that it's played off nonchalant. And the dialogue that precedes it is so laughably bad. You have this character who, granted, this is not a funny thing to happen, and I hope to God, like, I never have to deal with this, or anybody I know has to ever experience this, but he has dementia. But the way it's written in this movie, I was laughing at him about halfway through the film, because he keeps bringing up the dumbest things, like, and just the way it's said, just the way, when it's dropped and everything, it just doesn't fit right. He's trying to find out the name of a movie with Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro, and it's
Let me find out for you right now.
And like, he keeps bringing this up, and at first when it's brought up, it's like, oh crap, he's having dementia. But when we're like 20 minutes later, and it's like a person literally became bones and dust in a matter of seconds, and he's just like in the background, what's that movie with Robert De Niro and Marlon? And I'm just like, okay, no, this is not. It's not working anymore, M. Night. You should.
No.
If you want to incorporate this, find a different way for him to start expressing that rather than bringing up this dumb movie constantly. Find other
The
ways.
Missouri Breaks.
Like,
That's the name of the
Name of the movie? Oh, damn, somebody could have just told him. It's that easy. Like, if we were there on that beach, we would have been filmed us like, we got you, brother. But yeah, I was just kind of like really let down on the execution of this film because it has such a great setup.
No, I agree. Now, I will say, I've watched a lot of interviews with M. Night. I actually watched a ton right before I saw Glass. Just him talking. I actually watched an hour lecture he had at a college or whatever, where he was just talking about his career and did a Q&A. He is on, and I kid you not when I say this, I'm not the biggest M. Night fan in the world. I think it's almost like a batting, like to use Joe's analogy, a batting average of like 500 of movies I like and dislike. One of my most controversial film opinions, I feel like I say this every week, but I got in a couple fights at work with this. I would put The Last Airbender over Signs, but that's a debate over another day.
Really?
Yes.
That
Signs
is the spiciest
Signs is
thing.
trash. Signs is trash.
I disagree,
Okay?
brother. Wow.
I'm not saying it's miles ahead, and I still say Last Airbender sucks, but Last Airbender over Signs.
I don't care. I don't care about Airbender. I'm just surprised that you think Signs is that bad.
Signs is
Yeah,
awful.
to me,
We could
that's what
devote
I-
an
that's-
episode to it.
That to me caught me off guard. You actually think Signs?
We can do an episode on that. Signs is awful. Signs is. I always tell people because it's nobody's seen it in like the last 15 years. I said Signs is far worse than you remember in terms of plotting, in terms of acting, and in terms of logic. And I know it's an alien movie, but still, logic is foreign to this whole entire movie. I hated Signs.
Steve's
But
in the
anyway,
camp of Scary Movie 3 is better.
Yes, I would go that far. Scary Movie 3 is better at what it tries to do than Signs. But anyway, but here's the thing. Now this will be a wonderful segue. M. Night is on the short list of directors, filmmakers I'd love to have a drink with. And Lord knows he wouldn't after what I just said.
Absolutely.
But I'm serious. The guy is brilliant. The guy is smarter than you think. This guy, when you listen to him speak and watch his interviews, he's philosophical in a very accessible way. He's brilliant. He clearly cares about people and about, like, he even talks about experiences working with directors and actors, and he loves it. Like, this guy just seems very genuine, and it makes me feel bad about what happened, like, after The Last Airbender, when After Earth came out, bombed. And if you look at the After Earth posters, it doesn't even say from the director of Sixth Sense and Signs. He basically almost got blackballed, essentially, and had to work his way back. It was The Visit that ingratiated him again in public favor, and I'm a big fan of The Visit too. But M. Night needs my point being, M. Night needs a co-writer or somebody. He can come up with stories, and he can come up with plots, but the guy does not have a good handle on dialogue. He never has. Even in his earliest movies, he never has. As far as the way human beings talk and communicate, he doesn't know how to approach that. And some of his worst dialogue writing tendencies are evident in this movie from the very beginning. And Dom even brought up the good point too. He's often too, when he's got a really clever idea and he knows he has a clever idea, Lady in the Water, which I'm kinder to than most people. I kind of like Lady in the Water. But Lady in the Water has the same problem where it's characters talking exposition more than actually doing or showing. And that's one of the ultimate problems with M. Night has been from the jump.
The film critic in that movie, when he is describing how he's going to die, is the perfect way to like show somebody this is how M. Night writes people.
And I feel bad because he's kind of a punching bag, but he's honestly like a really decent human being.
No, absolutely,
and it's not
yeah.
his fault. And it's not his fault that he's burdened with one of the worst cold takes exposed Newsweek covers. You guys know about that, right?
No.
There's a Newsweek article that came out after Signs that has a picture of M. Night, and it says, "From the Sixth Sense to Signs, the next Spielberg."
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And it's like, because then he did The Village, and The Village was divisive. I didn't hate The Village. The Village was all right. But then he did Lady in the Water, and people hated Lady in the Water. Then he did The Happening. People hated The Happening. And then it was just a tsunami of hatred with Airbender.
Yeah, because you brought in the fan
Justifiably
base.
so. I'm not
Yeah.
going to Justifiably so. I'm not, and like I said again, I know I just said The Last Airbender is better than Signs. It's like a slight notch better. I like the color scheme of the Last Airbender, and I like the cinematography of it more, and that's why I give it a bump over Signs. But like there are positives in this movie. The visuals are great. I think the movie looks good, and I think it's a credit to the cinematographer whose name escapes me, Michael Giallakis or something. He's really good, and he's one of M. Night's longtime cinematographers. I think they do great work on this beach. And again, Alex Wolff, stay sleeping on him. The kid's great. Never did I think one half of the Naked Brothers band would be this great of an actor, but he is. Like this kid kicks ass, dude. I just wrote the review of Pig with Nick Cage, and he's in that, and he was great in that. And I'm like, this kid don't miss. Like, whoever his agent is has got to be getting top damn dollar, man, because this guy has been in every Hereditary, Coming Through the Rye. The guy's been in everything, and he's good here.
I'm ready to wrap it up. I don't know if anybody else has to make any final things.
Sure. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
Dom,
we're
I'm
good.
talking too much today. Dom, you can Dom, Joe, and then me to wrap up Old.
Yeah, dude, 1.5 stars for me, bro. This is
Oh,
come on.
Stop it. Stop it.
No, dude. I do think the first half of Looney Tunes is better than the entirety of this movie. Not Looney Tunes, Space Jam. Did I say Space Jam is better because like this is just like a mess. This is honestly like you remember when I proposed the idea that I think we can write better dialogue. I think we can write a better movie than for Scoob. Yeah. Same thing with Space Jam. I might be able to say the same thing for Old, for this movie, just because it is literally just nonstop, like a quora, like a forum, like just people explaining shit and screaming and running up and down. That's all I remember. Honestly, the twist meant nothing to me here because it was like neither bad nor good, just because it's like, oh, thank God, people are like acting and shit. Like, not acting, like, no, that's too mean. But like, like, at least there's something that's not screaming happening here. So that might be a little bit too harsh, but honestly, the move harsh on Shyamalan, because he honestly does seem like a really interesting dude, and I don't doubt what you said, Steve, that he is a really cool guy. But yeah, he just needs a partner. He just needs a co-writer or someone to guide him through the mechanics of dialogue, at the very least dialogue, and then maybe we'll see some of his directing in a better light. Look, man, I love Signs. Maybe we need to rewatch it, and maybe do something controversial here. But yeah, dude, 1.5 for me. This is a mess.
Yeah, he needs to consult maybe his brother and Dawn Shyamalan or something.
Is that real?
No, it's a pun.
Okay, I was like, yeah, damn.
It's a terrible joke. You know, maybe Dusk Shyamalan. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know. It's like I almost want to give it the same rating Dom gave it, but it's like I feel like that's too harsh because there were things I did like about this movie. I do agree with Steve that it is a nice looking movie. Some of the cinematography is really good. Some of it is just weird, like, you know, just the choice of like keeping this character that far back and the camera over here while they're talking and everything. It's like it's very M. Night Shyamalan-ish, and it was just like, all right, whatever. Like, you know, that's just his thing when he films movies for some reason. But it's like I'm honestly caught in where I'm gonna put my rating at on this film. I might feel differently by the end of the year. It might be 1.5 out of 4 stars for me. It might be 2, but I can say this: it is not. It won't be on my worst of list, no matter what happens. I don't think it's that bad. Like it didn't make me angry or anything. It just made me disappointed with how it turned out to be in the final product and everything. I thought it was gonna be on my worst of list at a moment, but like it at least like wrapped up, I thought, nicely. I know, like, you two, Steve, you didn't like the twist. Dom, you just didn't give a shit about it. You were just like, all right, cool, movie's almost over, let's go. But like for me, I was like, oh, like, as somebody who watched Lost, I was like, well, at least this gave me something. And it at least made sense, and I was like, damn, like, thank you, Shyamalan, you at least put effort here. So for that, other than, like, you know, I thought was a strong start and a solid conclusion, but a very, very weak second act. I will give it 2 out of 4 stars.
Okay, I'm gonna be the nicer one of the group. I give it 2.5 out of 4 stars in my review of this. Despite the borderline atrocious dialogue and a few other things that I griped about too, I do, like I said, I like the visual scheme of this movie too. And I mostly, you know what, I do like the performances, even to going back. I think Abby Lee finds her role pretty well as Crystal, the woman who's got the calcium deficiency. I think that I know she's kind of overblown as a caricature, but I think she functions well physically with the character as well. And I also, in the movie, did make me ponder some of the questions Joe brought up earlier. So I don't fault it for that. It doesn't completely obscure the themes involved about cherishing life. And it's not as cliche as that sounds. So I give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. But again, I didn't want to come out of this movie kind of like shrugging my shoulders. And that's what especially after that great trailer, I didn't want to come out shrugging my shoulders. And the fact that I'm almost borderline indifferent on this movie is kind of the most painful thing about it. But, and I'll leave it at this. I think I ended my review the same way. I said, there might not be a filmmaker as consistently inconsistent as M. Night Shyamalan, but there's also no other filmmaker who has a low as batting average as he does that will find a way to get you interested in his next movie 2 years from now.
That's so true.
For sure.
So
he will find a way to get your ass back in the theater. And I admire him for that. I admire him for that.
Because, like, literally, like, when I was just like, I don't want to go see his next movie, The Visit. Damn, that looks good. Split. All right, James McAvoy. I love that guy.
Is that something to admire or something to get frustrated over? Because it's like,
Both.
You're drawing me in. This was not not worth it.
I say both because it at least gives me hope that one day I'll like it. It's just like I like his show.
You guys are haters, man. The guy has made what I would call great movies. The Sixth Sense,
Absolutely.
The Visit.
100%.
You know, the guy has transcended and made great movies. I would even put. I think his best movie, categorically, is Unbreakable.
Yeah,
I think that
agree.
is his best movie, and that gets brought up the least. I feel. You know, like.
What was I saying?
Don't rule him out. Don't rule out him trying to go and tie this into a different universe to this old movie. Don't rule that out either, because he proved he can do it. He proved he could do it with Unbreakable Glass and Split.
I think his show Servant is actually really good too on Apple TV. Every time we had to use Apple TV for like a movie we had to review, it was a show I actually ended up watching every single time we rented it or we had to use it.
Anyway, if M. Night somehow sees this, though, let me know, dude. If you're ever in Illinois or Indiana or Wisconsin or Iowa, I'll drive. Let's go for drinks. You know, you can mansplain to me why Signs doesn't suck, if nothing else.
I'll do that for him. I'll do that for him.
The aliens are allergic to water and they travel to a planet that's 75% water. That's your first problem with Signs.
Yeah, sure. You're right.
That's your first problem with Signs.
You're absolutely right. But and you know what? But the moment tense as hell, dude. That gave me nightmares.
They can travel all the way to Earth. They can travel all the way to Earth on top of building spaceships. They can't get through a fucking wooden door. They can't get through. They seem to have a problem with pantry doors. You want to talk about awful dialogue?
Society is full of advanced technology used by dumb people.
Beavis and Butthead could go through a frigging door. Okay. Oh my God.
Technically, we're the aliens. We are the aliens in their world. So who the hell knows how doors work?
Signs is worse than you remember. If you learn nothing else from me, Signs is worse than you remember.
Talk about the Feet book.
Anyway, I got a book to review, damn it. I got a book to review, and we're pushing into Sleepless OT over here. Holy crap. All right. A Time in Hollywood. Okay. All right. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think I speak for Joe. Dom hasn't seen it, right? You haven't seen it.
I really want to. It's on my list.
It's on Stars for what that's worth to you. But I think Joe might tend to agree. I don't know if you will, but this made my favorite movies of 2019 list, top 10.
No, I hated it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. I was gonna say we're doing Sleepless then, so I can't fact check myself on whether or not you liked it. But anyway, if you don't know, now you know. Quentin Tarantino is now in the publishing business, or is now in the author business at least, with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the drug store. I butchered this. The drugstore spinner rack mass market paperback right here is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's a deluxe edition, deluxe hardcover edition coming out later this year. So guess what, guys? We all got conned into buying this one. We all got conned into buying the single disc DVD when there's a special edition coming out, essentially. But I digress. But anyway, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was one of my favorite films of 2019. Really loved it. Not only did I love the era of Hollywood of '69, but I love the characters, Cliff Booth, Rick Dalton, and I wanted to spend more time with them. What's up, Joe?
I was gonna say Cliff Booth is my favorite Tarantino character. Like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't make my top 10 list when I did make one that year. I liked it a lot, but Cliff Booth is my favorite Tarantino character. I love that guy so much.
And on that note, you should pick up this book because there are many chapters. I would reckon to say 7 of the 25 chapters in this book focus on Cliff Booth exclusively.
Sweet.
And Tarantino knows that you're interested. Tarantino knows that you got enough of alcoholic Rick Dalton during the movie, as much as he is in the book. This book is very much dedicated in a lot of ways to the backstory of Cliff Booth, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the chance to spend more time with these characters was a must for me, and I think a lot of other people. Now, this movie is not a direct novelization of the movie. That's the confusing thing. It's not a carbon copy, written out, narrativized version of the movie. It's kind of like a remix of the movie in some ways. There's recognizable events from the movie that are transcribed in the book, but more time is devoted to the inner worlds of people like Charles Manson, and the sort of reach of his cult, which is fascinating stuff. Trudy Frazier, who's the little child actress in the movie that Rick Dalton has the heart-to-heart with on the set of Lancer. And he delivers that great line when he starts crying, realizing that the book he's reading is about him. And she's like, "Why are you crying?" She's like, "Why are you crying?" He goes, "You'll understand when you're 15." And Trudy Frazier is a huge part of this book. And her acting career, Sharon Tate's private life, and I love Sharon Tate. The story of her is tragic, but she was a tremendous actress, really breaking into something when she sadly got killed. But her life with Roman Polanski is detailed excessively in this book. And again, as I mentioned to Joe, a lot of chapters in this book are dedicated to Cliff Booth. We get more context to the Bruce Lee brawl and what led up to that between him and Cliff. We also get an explanation of what happened to Cliff Booth's wife, and I'll say nothing more for the people who haven't read it. There is a chapter devoted to Cliff Booth's wife, and it's a great, great chapter. It's one of my top 5 favorite chapters in this book.
I gotta read this book.
Joe's about to cop this thing.
It sounds like an easy read, or not like an easy read, but like a fast
400 pages. I flew through it in 3 weeks. 4
Nice.
weeks. I flew through it. This is a deceptively fast read, despite how thick it looks. It's also, too, worth noting it's third person present. So it reads in so many words. It reads a lot like a screenplay, sometimes more than prose, which I think is disappointing in a way because I was kind of hoping Tarantino had more of an author voice. But I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. Having seen every Tarantino movie, the guy is who he is. So it's not the most surprising that this thing reads very much like a Tarantino screenplay if you've read those. But it's also expository. One of the big complaints I have about this book is that it's expository to a damn fault. This is one of those books that, like, Tarantino keeps interrupting himself. Like, you'll get 3 lines of dialogue, and then somebody will mention a movie that Rick Dalton did. Then you need 5 paragraphs talking about what the actors ate on the set of that movie. Then it goes back to the conversation at hand. By that point, you almost forgot what the hell you were in the middle of. Then you get a couple more lines of dialogue. Then somebody like James Stacey walks in, and then it's like, well, Stacey's acting career started back in the 40s, and it's like, there's a time for this. Like, if you took out the expository text of this book, this is 400 pages exactly. If you took out the expository text of this book, you're probably left with, I would say, maybe 180, 190 pages. Because a lot of this book is contextualization. And a lot of it is good. A lot of it's rich. There's like half a chapter dedicated to the radio station in LA, which you can imagine I loved. But he could have summed up in 5 pages sometimes what he sums up in 15. The worst chapter in this book, in my opinion, is Lancer. That is the show that Rick Dalton is guest starring on. And my God, that chapter goes on. That chapter, it took me 2 days to read. That chapter is 18 pages, and it basically gives you the oral history of the Western program Lancer that aired in the 60s. It basically gives you the oral history and all the characters and the subplots and the side shots and the guest actors. And it's like, let me tell you, I didn't even like Bonanza. I don't give a shit. You're mistaking me for someone who gives a shit over here. Like I was chugging along, and then I hit that Lancer chapter, and then that was got to be the worst chapter in this book. Some people are gonna like it, but it's one of those things that I thought it was way too much needless information that doesn't come back into play. At least when he's describing like the radio station or he's describing the theaters of LA, they come back at central points in the book. The Lancer thing is just the backdrop, and we get 18 pages dedicated to it. Characters we don't even meet and know, and who's sleeping with who and who wants who dead.
It's immersion, Steve. Immersion.
I was immersed up until then, man. Then I was alienated.
Gotcha.
But the other thing too, like, it honestly made me hope the book on Dalton's films and career, because that's happening. I don't know if you heard that. He's making,
really?
Tarantino's allegedly making a book about the films of Rick Dalton.
And we're getting the spin-off
honestly,
show, too, of the actual Western show. That
Bounty Law.
Yeah.
Bounty Law. It made me excited. I hope that book on Rick Dalton's movies, fictional movies, comes to fruition, because I would read that, especially if it kind of reads like this. And lastly, though, I'll say this. Tarantino's appreciation for cinema has never been questioned. You watch all his movies, you know that. And he elaborates on sort of this, like, what this amounts to is like this sunny piece of Hollywood fan fiction. That's really what this is at the end of the day. He's created this, and he recognizes, as America, we really don't have mythology like the Greeks. We don't have ancient folklore like the Chinese. What we have instead is pop culture. And that's what this book is rich with, is pop culture and references and the 60s. And I mean, you could take a shot, besides the references to feet, you could take a shot for every time somebody says a derogatory word about hippies in this thing too. And the other thing too, I'll say, what a great, sweet ending. And I'll leave it at that. And I'm not talking about sweet like in cool. I mean, just a sweet, slightly sentimental, very nice, positive ending. I would give it, I've never reviewed a book before, so this is why I suck at it, if you're wondering, if you've gotten this far. 3 out of 4 stars. And I would also add my favorite chapters. I can't think of the chapter about Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee. I can't think of the title of that one, or the title of that chapter, but I would say my 2 favorite chapters, I've mentioned on the show before, is Pussycat's Creepy Crawl. That's got to be my favorite. That was awesome. And the other one is the Spawn Ranch, which is basically like an abridged version of what happens in the movie, but it gives more detail to a few things, and you also get that extended sort of written out scene with Cliff Booth picking up the hitchhiker. I would give this 3 out of 4 stars. If you like the movie and like the characters enough, I think this is a good read. And again, it's 400 pages. It's a deceptively fast read, and it's super cheap on Amazon. Go pick up Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Joe with the last word.
I was going to ask, so does the ending go past what you see in the film?
Yes.
Oh,
the
okay.
Ending of the movie. The book essentially takes place over the course of 2 days.
Okay.
Essentially. It's kind of hard to follow the timeline because it jumps around, but it's 2 days. What happened at the end of the movie, and the only reason I'm not going to spoil it is because I want Dom to watch it.
Yeah.
What happened at the end of the movie is mentioned and detailed. It's not played out. It's not written out, but it's mentioned about 100 pages in. And this kind of deals with the aftermath of what happened there, insofar that it catapulted, Rick Dalton got kind of a career revival from the ending.
Okay.
And that's the cool part about it. And keep in mind too, Sharon Tate's saga and everything ties really beautifully into this book. You can almost picture Margot Robbie too in this. I love in the book she talks about how like when she argues with Roman Polanski, her husband in the movie or in real life and in the book and everything, she always says, "You just want me to show up at your parties and me put on my sexy little me outfit." She says that like 14 times, and she's not wrong. She was a bombshell actress at the time, but it's kind of funny. Like she's very cognizant. Tarantino can get crap for writing women. He wrote Sharon Tate in the movie and in the book very admirably as more than just a lollipop blonde. Like, and I really love that. As somebody who really likes Sharon Tate, I found her even more fascinating with this book. But go pick this thing up. Like I said, I think I got this for less than $10, even with shipping. Like it's mass market paperback for a reason. It's cheap as hell. Pick it up. It's definitely worth reading. It's a really nice summer read too. I needed kind of a come down thing. I was having a banger summer really these last like several weeks just running around. This was like a nice spritzer to chill. So thanks for letting me review that on my show, I should say, because I took up a lot longer than I should have. And on that note, we should call it a night. It's Sleepless with Steve. Really great show, guys. I want to say that. I had a lot of fun tonight. We had three really good topics.
I've never been part of a book club, which is, it's been really cool being part of a book club where I didn't even read the book. So it's like, yeah, that's about how it would go.
Anyways, with those last 5 minutes, I will talk about Dune.
We might have Joe. Well, we reviewed Dune in a few months. I might have you maybe even start the show because you've been reading it. If you
it's
like,
a fucking dense
you want
book, but I use the one F word, but it's only the end of the show. But yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say I might have you talk about the book because I've seen the movie and I'd like to rewatch the original movie, as flawed as it is, before it. But I mean, to have you with the perspective of the book, I would love for you to to bring that up.
I know that the Denis Villeneuve's Dune is only the first half of the book, so I'll see where it eventually goes, and I of course won't reveal past that.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll work, man. That's Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. We got Jungle Cruise next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
We have Jungle Cruise next weekend. The following weekend, we have The Suicide Squad. Don't get it twisted. The Suicide Squad. Okay, it's not the Suicide Squad. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. We'll be reviewing that in 2 weeks. Next week, though, is Jungle Cruise. And I've got a really great opener for my Jungle Cruise review. Regardless if I like it or dislike it, it'll be pertinent. I'm going to save it. I'm going to table it until the show next week and my review, which will be out on Friday afternoon. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Highlights will be posted on the same YouTube page on which you are viewing this episode. Big credit to Joe working the board, doing what he does over there, making sure the show runs smoothly. Dominic Guanzon in the trademark blue polo. This has been Sleepless with Steve.
Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.